Oh, I just thought of a cool thing. No, not for today. Look, you know how your brain just something clicks and then you're like, oh, that's a rabbit hole. I got to move on.
Yeah.
Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patience. Day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right.
Well, today we're going to dive into our favorite Dr. Seuss, One Fish, Two Fish, and talk about an MFA bypass twist, among other things. So we've got some interesting ones here. We've pulled some recent things that are in the news, and just to kind of give you a preview, CISA has an alert out about an RMM, so a remote monitoring management platform you need to know about. Then we're going to talk about 16 billion credentials that have been leaked, or have they? And then we'll talk about some Russian hackers because, Russian hackers. And then we'll wrap it up with a WordPress theme flaw. So if you're running WordPress, which most of you out there probably are, then you need to pay attention.
Yeah, whether you know it or not, you probably are.
Yeah, hopefully you know it, but you may not. It might be a good question for you to ask. Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump right into the first one here. You found an alert here for Simple Help RMM, and CISA put out this alert about something that they patched that it's not great, right?
It's well, here's the thing: is the CISA put out an alert that in hello, there's a vulnerability. A researcher found the vulnerability in December. They notified the company that makes Simple Help RMM, and they released a patch on January 13th. And after that, then they disclosed it publicly so everybody would know they needed to get patched. Well, apparently everybody didn't get the memo.
That happens.
Yeah, so the patch has been there since January, and that was a long time ago in patch world, right? Especially one that lets you have remote access and control. And I mean, that shouldn't wait, right? We understand, but there's no way that shouldn't have been done like before the end of February, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, it wasn't. And so then CISA released a bulletin because it was leveraged against a utility company, a software company that that does utility billing. And it allowed all of their customers to get hit with a double extortion ransomware attack.
Ooh.
So we're going to take your data. We're going to do all this. And it was the software company that had installed Simple Help RMM and did not install the patch. So,
I see this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
See that we have clients that, I've got this software company or software vendor. I've got a copier company. Then I have previous IT companies. It's like everybody needs access for some reason to get into things. And, typically once that vendor installs that software, they're not able in most cases to go in and even update that software. So they have you install it and then it's on you at that point.
Yeah. They don't make sure that they don't even tell you, by the way, you need to make sure this stays up to date. They don't even mention it.
No, it's like next time we need to connect to you, it'll auto update. But until then, there's a problem. Now
there you are hanging with your britches down. There you go.
Now, if you're using the one that maybe your MSP's providing, they usually keep that up to date. But again, you should be asking questions.
Yes. So so we say RMM, we just keep going. Remote monitoring and
How do you say that
See,
again?
that's why I say RMM, because I can't use the word.
Yeah. So remote monitoring and management. So, it gives you the ability to see things like the CPU usage and memory usage and hard drive usage. I mean, it doesn't usually give you the ability to see, files and all that. It kind of depends. Depends on what it is.
It depends. I mean, some of them you can do a lot.
Yeah.
But almost all of them give you,
again, remote access. Yeah. Give you the remote access, which is really what you want. You want that remote access, because when somebody calls and they're like, hey, I can't get this thing to work, it is sometimes painful to try to get them to give you remote access. It's like, go here, download this thing, do this thing. It's a lot easier if you can already have it on there. You jump through the hoops one time, and then the next time they need help, it's a lot easier for you. So I get it. I get why you use it, and I get why you leave it on there. Logistically, it makes sense. However, it comes with risks.
It comes with risks. Let's reiterate that. And I believe that whoever installs it should be the one that is responsible for keeping it up to date, unless they pass that along, right? I mean, you can't just assume, and especially if you saw this come out, which apparently they didn't see. I don't know what happened as far as that individual software company. But we do know, I went back and I checked Health ISAC, which is, they do the information sharing alert stuff specifically to the healthcare industry. And they published this back in January, like right after it was released. I think within a week, it was published by them, and they pointed out the vulnerabilities identified in Simple Help RMM could allow attackers to manipulate files and escalate privileges to administrative. A threat actor could chain these vulnerabilities in an attack to gain administrative access to the vulnerable server, then use that access to compromise the device running vulnerable Simple Help client software.
And no doubt, some bad guy somewhere said, that's a great idea. I think I'll try that.
Well, I mean, they have to tell everybody it exists so that to go,
do something about it.
Yeah. And, and the company, that they fixed it right away. I mean, these things happen, but you've got that whole next step that has to take place. So, right away, they knew it was bad.
Yep.
And by the end of February, they had it as a known exploited vulnerability. So, it was a KEV, not a CVE.
This is yet another reason why you want to keep your systems as clean as possible of software. And I recommend going through them as frequently as you can. Now, not daily, probably, but on a monthly basis, look through your software assets and see what's installed on these computers and get rid of them. If it's not used, or even if it's not used frequently, get rid of it. Because there's some software I only use it once or twice a year. And guess what? I reinstall it every time I need to use it. I don't leave it sitting there because I don't want the risk involved with that software being on my system if I'm not using it.
Yeah, and I don't think most people recognize that's a decision you have to make. When I decide to put software on here, I am adding a risk. I am adding a cybersecurity risk, and I'm just adding an app. No, you're adding a cybersecurity risk.
That's right.
Is the way you need to look at it. You're adding a cybersecurity risk to your computer, and now you're responsible for dealing with that. Yeah. So, what are you going to do? And the unfortunate thing is, I bet you many people that had that client running had no idea they had that client running.
Yeah, probably not. And, if the software company, and again, we're speculating, but if the software company is not going to keep it up to date and patch it, my feeling is the least thing they could have done was try to contact their clients that maybe had it installed. But I don't know. I don't know to what degree they did anything or didn't do it. They could have done it. I don't know. don't know what happened, but it again just goes to show anytime something is remote access, and if you don't know, you can simply read it and go, oh, Simple Help RMM. I don't know what that is. Roll on.
Yeah.
But the number of times I've seen remote access left on computers, left open on computers, is mind-boggling because people will just install anything because it's so easy. They install it and they leave it on there, and they don't think there's anything else they have to do with it. Oh,
So
it'll auto update, right? I have auto updates turned on. It'll auto update. No, not always.
No, that's not how that works. But if you have done a proper SRA and you have a complete software inventory, when these things happen, you could look at it and say, look, we have that.
Mm-hmm.
And deal with it. And that's why we do the software inventory right there. That's why that's so important. Is so that you can quickly tell whether or not it's something you got to worry about.
Yep.
Oh, I just thought of a cool thing. No, not for today. Look, you know how your brain just something clicks and then you're like, oh, that's a rabbit hole. I got to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a rabbit hole. We'll talk about it later. It's a cool idea. Anyway, this is what happens with me and David just talking and not recording the podcast.
Yeah.
So you're ready to move on to the
Yeah.
be afraid but remain calm is what we're calling this one.
Be afraid. Be very calm and afraid. So last week I started getting these notifications. I don't know if you did.
Yeah.
I have friends that love to send me things they find. I think they're trying to beat me to finding it. Like, I found it before you did.
I know. I'm like, oh, cool. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah. And so I get one that's like, the mother of all data breaches, 16 billion credentials leaked. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then I start looking at it and digging into it. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is not a data breach. No. All this is somebody took a whole bunch of other stuff and then packaged it up nicely and neatly so that now it's a bigger thing. And it was just publicly available, but it's not something that's new. It's not newly available breach credentials.
No, they have been out there for a while.
Right.
It's just, somebody wrote some cool little something that scooped up a bunch of them and put them all into one database.
Yeah.
Which is, that makes them happy. It's, I'm getting them all in one place. But I believe that it was, they were circulating and a cybersecurity firm, researchers or threat actors or somebody exposed it. Now, you got to hope that it's the threat actors that just put them all together and exposed it, not researchers or a cybersecurity firm. But, it's like you said, it's like when I'm like, well, we need to talk about it, you're like, well, I don't want them to know they shouldn't be afraid.
I know. People are freaking out. And I'm like, good, let them freak out because that's healthy. Because we get so many people that are like, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care. So when they finally are, a little bit concerned, I don't want them to not be concerned. Like, I want you to feel that for a little bit.
Live with that. Just live with that for a minute.
Yeah. You know how you feel right now? Well, a real data breach that you're involved in is going to feel a lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we want you to feel it, but then we want you to remain calm that this isn't it, but the next one could be.
Yeah.
It's like, but again, you have that same thing of, how many people have, put this on social media, posted about it, big headlines, really terrifying, all this kind of stuff, but have not even thought that this is what it might be. They have no clue.
Most. Yep. Well, people don't read. They the headline is the headline. And really, when you look, especially when you're on social media and you're trying to post things fast and you're trying to get things out there before everybody else does so that you can be cutting edge. And so you have that, not just from a journalist standpoint, but even, even me, like I try to post something every day on LinkedIn, and I want to be posting something that maybe people aren't aware of yet. And so I try to get things that are fresh, but I have to do some due diligence, and, I could potentially post something without all the information, but I try not to, but it could happen.
Yeah. But then it turns into, it's like, there's a big part of us that get excited about these kind of things. But by the way, though, I do want to. So I was trying to put together articles about all these, and I found that Bleeping Computer, which we mention often, had an article about. They may not have had one about the first one, but they had an article about almost all of them, and so that's what I put links in, because I really like. I mean, that started out as just like a place for you to get help, and it was called Bleeping Computer, and it's been around a long, long time. But the the picture is this cat just staring at you. If you look at it, it says the mother of all breaches, but the cat's like, really. No.
Yeah. No, not really.
So,
yes, it's nothing new. I don't know. I mean, if it's a breach to previous breached, is it double breached? I don't know. Is it a breach or races a breach?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. If people that were in the original ones never changed their passwords, now would be the time. Yeah. Because now it's been packaged up nice and pretty to be used more often. Yeah, so at least look at it that way. If you haven't done it recently, now would be the time.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah. And I had a client last week. They asked me about it, and I was telling them a little bit about it. But I don't want to go, don't worry about it. I don't want to do that. But the quote from, I won't quote the client. The client says something to the effect of, but I just changed my passwords. And I was like, well, if you feel comfortable with what you've changed, you may be okay. Yeah. I said, but if you have, our password manager tool, it actually compares your passwords to things that are on, the breached databases and dark web, and you won't have to worry about it. So maybe you should spend a few dollars a month to have that for a little bit of peace of mind.
Yeah. See, what are you going to do? I would hope that you could convince them, if I just changed my password and now there's been a new leak, maybe you should go look and see when the leak occurred. How about that?
Yeah. Or just change it again. You're only using 3 passwords everywhere anyway.
No, but you remember when we did the thing where we tricked my team and your team and did the social engineering, and my team got so worried about it, they were like, everybody change your Google passwords. Because we're on Google Workspace, and we got 2-factor, and we've got all this other stuff, and they're all like had to go change it, and that's like a big deal, right? Because now you're logging out of all these things and logging back into all these things, and you're having to remember it. It's a big deal, and it takes time, and that is still to this day the number one thing they complain about. Having to do that for no apparent reason other than I had them tricked.
It was for an apparent reason. You were testing your incident response.
Oh yeah, that's it. I was testing to see how you were doing.
You were testing everybody, and at the same time trying not to get involved.
No, they were like, "We should have known when you didn't get it. You didn't even blink." We expect you to be calm. That's kind of your job when we're dealing with clients' breaches. But if it was happening to us and you didn't get upset, we should have asked. Yeah, you should have. But still, the thing they hated the most was changing their password.
Yeah. Well, speaking of changing your passwords, in Gmail, you've got some Russian hackers that have bypassed the MFA of Gmail.
And it's kind of brutal what they're doing, but it goes back to we keep saying, look, they have patience.
Yeah.
Not, they're not in a hurry. And they're willing to wait. And so in this one, they did a series of phishing. One Phish, two Phish, bypass MFA. Wow. There you go. Tricks. So between April and June, it was, I was trying to find here in the article because I love the way that the article put it. It was the hackers delivered meticulously developed phishing messages aimed at convincing recipients to create and share app-specific passwords, to their Gmail accounts. And so you can have two-factor on, but there's a way that you can connect third-party apps to your Gmail account. And it's called an app-specific password, and you get about the size of the screen warning. The font on the warning is huge. Like, do not do this unless you trust. Right?
Yep.
So what they did was they had a spear phishing, so that means it was very targeted. It's not just a spray and pray. It was spear phishing. And this particular one, we're going to take you through, and you say, well, I wouldn't fall for that. Yeah, it was designed for the people they sent it to. We're telling you about this because they will design one for you that'll do a very similar thing. And so, and this, by the way, let's lead in with the number of times we say, don't put important stuff in your email.
Yeah.
This is why. So you're sitting there, and this one, you get an email, and it's coming from somebody that's allegedly with the State Department, inviting you to a private online conversation. And the State Department would want to have a private, and these were people that would get requests from the State Department to have. So you in healthcare may get something about connect to discuss a patient. Who knows? It could be they will pretend to be the insurance company. That would be what I would expect them to do here. They already do that in some cases now. But then, so it's delivered from a Gmail account, but then there's a CC to a bunch of state.gov email addresses. Yeah, including one that's for the person that's supposedly sending you this from a Gmail account. So that adds credibility because it's copying all of those. What it really means is there's likely no bounce back or any kind of something happening at the State Department. But so back to the emails. So it was between April and June. They started this, and then when anybody would send something saying, well, I can't make it to that one. I'm not available for that call, right? That's when they got you. Reeling you in. They caught you.
Okay.
And they would have email exchanges where they're looking for you to express interest, but you're not available on that day or whatever. And they would say, okay, well, we need, we can certainly get you to attend future meetings and access to this information. Understand how, and here was an example of, thank you for getting back to me promptly. I completely understand that travel schedules can be unpredictable, and we appreciate your willingness to try to join us despite these constraints. Hello, welcome to AI written phishing emails.
Yeah. No kidding. That sounds just like Russian hackers.
Yeah, I mean, used to you would have a clue. but not anymore.
No, not anymore.
We may attempt to explore alternative dates in the coming days, but please note that rescheduling is not guaranteed. In any case, I'll extend to you to join our MS, as in Microsoft, DOS, which is in Department of State, guest tenant platform. That sounds complicated enough to be real.
Yep.
Which, if you connect to this, then you can just easily hop in on any meetings, no matter when they take place. It'll be a lot easier for you. And it says, would you be comfortable adding us to your account? And additionally, could you please let me know your availability next week? May 29th through the 30th. This will help us determine if an alternate date works for everyone. So they've done everything right in that email.
Yeah.
Right? And so they say, sure, I would be happy to do that because now I'm going to get the inside track. And they send them a PDF telling them exactly how to go into their account, into their Google account, and set up a platform that they can connect to. But what really is happening is they would say, here's your app-specific passcode setup. So you can add the external. We want to be able to add the external to our guest tenant. And it would even say all this stuff. And in instructions, telling them all the details. And, here you're going to be communicating with us. And we have to do extra security because you're an external person. People would believe that. And they think they're doing a good thing. And they generate the app password. And what you do at that moment is you create a secure connection for the criminals. You're basically saying, hey, it's kind of like your picture with all of the security around the house and somebody walks up and you just unlock everything and let them in. That's it.
Yep.
So it is, this is what we're talking about. Is now they're carrying on advanced conversations because they can. It is no longer something where it's so obvious that they don't understand how things would work for us because the AI is doing that for them.
Yeah. And also, you're going to have to start, if you're not already, you got to start monitoring your Google and Microsoft accounts for things like this. So it's beyond just, are we getting phishing? Are we getting spam? Are we getting malicious email? It's, well, what about these things? What about when you have this third-party app that you can connect to? Is there something that's picking up on that and notifying you that somebody did that? Because it's pretty easy to set up in a lot of cases. Some of them are more complicated than others, but if you don't have a way of knowing that, if you don't have a way of monitoring for that and alerting to it, and the only way I know to do it is to have some of these platforms that connect to your Google or Microsoft tenant, and it monitors for that activity and then alerts you for that.
And there's only so much that anyone can do anymore to be able to catch these things on their own. So we've got to have, the AI on this, the security side of AI is not keeping up. And it's understandable that it's not, but that's the kind of tool that you're talking about there.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where you can't, not that you can't, it's harder whenever it is something the user can do. It can't block everything the user can do. Otherwise, the user can't use the software. Yeah. And so that's what they exploit. Like, the user has the ability to do this, so let's just exploit that. Otherwise, if it's something they shouldn't be able to do, then the security is probably going to block it anyway.
Well, and in this case, like in most business accounts, which again, this is why we say don't use Gmail for business. Okay? Because it doesn't have the same level of security that a Google Workspace account would have. Right. A free account does not have the same level of security. And I would wager that at this point, it would have been really hard if you were the administrator of your own one. Because they switched over to OAuth from using a lot of this stuff, and got rid of the ones that didn't go to the OAuth where you actually go set up stuff. But they could be teaching you how to do that too.
Sure.
There's just the way they did this. But for the most part, there's way more steps and way more things that you have to get through to create assurances that what you're doing, you should be doing. And it's a lot harder to set them up in Workspace than it is to do what they had people go through on their Gmail accounts. Mm-hmm. So this, from the person that criticized us about saying don't use Gmail for business, is why. And not that they'll ever hear it, but we remember things, both good and bad. But here's the thing, is that they're carrying on a conversation with you. And now you need to take your phishing testing up a notch. Mm-hmm. So that you're not just getting them to click a link, you want them to reply to you. Yep. And if they reply to you, now is where the problem is.
It's getting complicated. It's not going to get any easier.
I'm so close to retirement. And,
that'll be the next phishing scam. Donna retires. Click here for the invitation to the party.
It'll be a good party. Yeah. Well, I've had multiple people, when I bring that up, they're like, no, that's not happening. And they just act like I never even said it. And they just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Retirement for you will probably involve a casket and a funeral home and all these other things. Yeah. I'm not going to retire.
It's going to be a good party. Yeah. Whatever it is, it'll be a good party.
That's right.
That's the rules. So,
all right, let's talk about something else here that people don't often do, which is website security.
And we've done episodes about this before, where we explain why that's important.
Yep.
But so many times, and this comes into play because people that know how to make good websites don't necessarily know how to make secure websites.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also that people who do the security and things like that, like for example, we provide hosting that has backup security and all that stuff. When you compare our prices to do that kind of work with the, $9.99 a month, people are like, wait a minute, they're charging $10 a month for hosting. You're charging $100 a month for hosting. Like, I'll go with the $10 a month.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand. It's not the same thing. And so you're up against that as well. But yeah, you're right. It is the people looking at the cost and not understanding the difference, but it is also the people that are putting the websites together. Rarely are they saying, okay, here's security and things like that. They're usually building the site and they're handing it to you. And they're like, okay, if you need the site updated or whatever, let me know. But other than that, you're on your own. Yeah.
And it's, we try to get people to understand that. And we do the best we can because that's not our gig. It's like that you do that service, but that's not your number one item that you're out there listing is, hey, everybody, come to us for your web hosting. When I go to your website, that's not the number one thing you want me to see.
No, it's more one of those things where we can't find a good alternative solution, so we had to do it for our clients.
Exactly. And, even for our websites, we coordinate all the time about keeping the HIPAA for MSPs, the Card and Club website, we've got the PriceX Bootcamp website, each of our company websites, and it just keeps going. And, I think we maintain, just for our business, I maintain, 5 different websites, or participate with you on maybe more. And it's a constant awareness thing. of making sure that all of these updates that apply to, and it's not just WordPress. In this case, it was a theme. So when somebody creates a website, you have the theme, which is the look and feel, and then you have plugins, which is the functionality on the back end. Right?
Right.
That's the way it works in a very simple world. But all of those things, WordPress, the themes, the tools that work on the back end to create the functionality, all of those things are software. They need patches.
They do.
It happens all the time. So there's security software that you can put on your WordPress site, but you need to have, I recommend having the paid versions of them.
I was about to say that. Yeah, the paid versions offer a lot more. And if your site is worth anything to you, then I would have the paid version.
So what kinds of things, why is it that we want people? So first of all, this story was about this theme would allow it's kind of like they call it the mass exploited to hijack admin accounts. So basically it's some malware that lets you take over that website. Okay, but my website's just information. I don't care. How do you explain to people no, you do. You do care because what all can go wrong?
I mean, everything can go wrong. One thing that they can do is they can change the website. They can change the code on the website. If people visit your site, it could load malware on their systems, or it could be just a malicious link that somebody puts there that they click on. And guess who's liable for that? I can guarantee you that any decent lawyer is going to have a field day with you because you didn't secure your site and it's serving up malicious dishes to people. It's going to be, it's a liability that you're going to get. I've seen sites where somebody goes in and defaces the site or loads porn all over it. We've seen that, where you go to a known good site and then it's got all kind of porn all over it. And, they're fighting like crazy to try to get it taken down or changed or whatever. And it can take a lot of time to get that switched over. I've seen them take, 3 days for that stuff to get resolved, if not longer. So you've got that.
Yeah, and any information you have about people that you've kept inside, you've captured a mailing list or whatever, they're getting that, and then they know they can mail as you. Yeah,
they can go in and they could just simply go in and say, I'm going to change the contact form to where it sends information to. And so people are filling out your contact form. They hadn't done anything malicious on the site. All they did was put their email address in where to send this information. And now every time somebody fills out your contact form, it's going to the bad guys. And the bad guys can reply with the contact form information, and they're expecting a reply. So now they're targeting your people with that.
Yeah, but the thing they're mostly doing these days is, it's, that drive-by kind of thing where it's going to pop up something and say, will you let us run this program? Well, it's my doctor's office. Sure, I will. Click.
Yeah, sure.
Or, look at our new AI chatbot. Tell me all about yourself. There's a bazillion things they can do with that website, and until you notice it, and by the way, once they do have control over it, they will change the passwords.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know about you, but like every freaking site I go to now wants to know my location.
It's torture.
No, I'm not telling you my location.
Yeah, by the time you argue with it about the fact that you're not going to tell it, no, I shall not share with you. I will not share. So the big thing to remember is
the whole website thing.
Yeah. So in this particular one, probably not something that would be your specific one, but I can tell you every single day, hundreds of WordPress-based vulnerabilities are discovered because there's so much software. And there's so many different things that you can do that you want to make sure that you understand that the person who's in charge of managing your website, which is another thing, is that I've had businesses where they have somebody and then they tell them, well, yeah, you paid me to create the website. And then when they want changes, well, you're going to need to pay me more. Well, let me log it. Nope. You can't have it. I wrote it. You can't have it. And that you've had to help people because, well, what did you sign? I mean, you would let them move it if they wanted to take it. Go ahead, But there are a ton of people that would never do it. They say, no, I own it. I have it, and you can't have it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just renting it.
So there's a lot of reasons that you want to fully understand what's going on with your website. This is your storefront on the internet. This is where everyone that wants to learn about you, this would be the first place they'd go. Well, you would hope so. Maybe not. Maybe it's a Google review. I don't know. But that was just your reminder for that is who's watching your website security. So there you have it. One fish, two fish. Moving on.
Yeah.
Bluefish.
As always, a lot to think about. And you should have a list of things from this episode, if none of the rest of them, to go back and look at, consider, talk about, sit down with your team. If you're the compliance officer, there's probably a thing or two that you want to check out.
Yeah, probably.
There you have it. Well, if you enjoyed today's show, be sure to share it out. Do your part. Be the ISAC for us. Do the information sharing. Until next time, remember that HIPAA's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.